Are you about to spend $1 gazillion a month on brand new streaming services? Well, probably not all of you, but some of you definitely will. The question is, are those new streaming services going to be worth it? To debate that, we have Tegan Jones from Gizmodo and we have Matt Hopkins from Pedestrian. So we've got two interesting pieces of news in the streaming wars. We found out how much money we believe Apple is going to be spending on their new streaming service, Apple Plus. But I want to start with Disney. Disney are, of course, home to Disney Pixar, Marvel, Star Wars, National Geographic.
Fox as well, so you've got The Simpsons and everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fox and movies even?
Yeah.
Does that fall under them now?
I think so, yeah.
And now, well, yeah, because that's 20th Century Fox. And so we got the news this week that actually Disney Plus will be launching in Australia in November. And it's actually going to be a fair bit cheaper than I think people were expecting, Tegan.
Yeah, they're coming in at only $8.99 a month, or if you want to pay for a whole year, it'll only cost you $89.99. While some people did pay that much in the past for set-top boxes and all that kind of thing, I do think people are kind of over it. But I do think the Disney Plus is probably going to do a little bit better than what Apple is coming to the table with.
That's the other thing that's happened this week. Apple have earmarked $6 billion for their new streaming service, Apple TV Plus. And we saw a trailer, I think one of the first proper trailers for their show, which in the US will be known as The Morning Show. In Australia, I believe will be known as Morning Wars.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Really?
I didn't know that we're getting
I've-
a 13 going on 30 situation with the change.
I've read that a few different places. I don't actually know where that attribution comes from, but the gist of the show is that it has Reese Witherspoon, Steve Carell, and Jennifer Aniston all working on a daytime TV show, which I think is fascinating, by the way, that your big launch show on an Apple streaming service is all about the world of morning broadcast television. Does anyone else think that's either poetic or weird?
They reckon cost per episode
this is amazing.
will exceed that of Game of Thrones, cost per episode, which is astounding to me.
Yeah.
It's just, if you're an agent and Apple, one of the most wealthy companies in the world, approaches you, you just dollar signs start magically appearing around your head, surely.
Absolutely. I mean, and the $6 billion is crazy because originally they were only going to put $1 billion into their original shows. So this seems like they're concerned perhaps, or just doubling down on just going, you know what, we're Apple, we've got all this money in our coffers, let's just do what we can and just throw money at a bunch of stars and see what we can do. I mean, I'm interested to see the show, but that Game of Thrones anecdote is wild.
It really puts it in perspective.
I mean, it's worth pointing out also that these are sort of indirect quotes that have come up through the Financial Times. It's not them saying we haven't seen, a budget call on this yet. So that number could well be quite off. But it is interesting because Apple, for an organisation that have so much money and a real marketing heft, it feels like their launch into the streaming space has maybe been a little bit quieter, like comparative to certainly what Disney and where Netflix is at the market now. Is that just my take on it, or
The thing with Apple is that it is usually notoriously quiet about what it's working on the background, except for when it comes to iPhones, because they leak something severe.
Yeah.
But, you will find that sometimes they'll be like, bam, here's the thing that we're going to do. But it is worth noting that Apple has been moving more away from hardware and into services over the last few years. So having a streaming service definitely makes sense for them if they're pushing hard into that space. People may be concerned about how well it's going to go when we don't know much about it, and we don't know what content it's going to have. I mean, at least with Disney, while it's all of their, IP at the moment, there's a hell of a lot there. Like there's thousands and thousands of shows and movies where what do Apple have?
I mean, the other way to think about it is that with Disney, because their entire strategy seems to be built on things that already exist. Mm-hmm. So every movie is a remake of something else that's come out before. They only have really one play. It's nostalgia at every turn. We'll make a TV show out of Star Wars. We'll redo High School Musical for kids that were kids when that came out. Their entire strategy seems to be built on things that already exist before, which can get, I think, potentially a bit tired. I ask this question all the time. What are they going to remake in 20 years' time? Because there's nothing original that came out of that company this year, right?
Yes, yeah.
The flip side of that is you do have Apple who, everything that they've announced so far is pretty original. There's an argument to potentially give credit where it's due, for at least for Apple, for investing in things that we haven't seen before. Granted, with very big stars. I mean, it's not exactly indie filmmaking now, is it, Matthew?
This is true. But no, you're right. I think, and that's something I've been talking about a lot lately, is just every single big movie that's come out is either based on a comic book or it's a remake of something that was around, when I was a kid. Like, it's just, there's no really good original content coming out. So I'm interested to see what $6 billion buys Apple in that ballpark,
if you talk to anybody that works in streaming media, the general sense is that the conversion to get people over the line is them being able to see 2 or 3 sort of hit shows and a pipeline that sort of promises continual value over the next couple of months. The pipeline isn't super obvious at the moment. And I wonder if maybe because they come from a tech company background where they just drop, bam, a new product or bam, announce something, it actually doesn't align with that sort of customer behavior of being able to see like 3 or 4 different things going, oh, yeah, maybe I will sign up with that. Yeah. But I suppose also it's early days as well.
I agree with that. And that's why I wouldn't be entirely surprised if they bundle it in some way. If you have Apple Music or, some other Apple product that will just throw it in for free for maybe the first 6 to 12 months, like get people in that way because the Apple ecosystem is vast and people get caught in there. And the thing that Apple has been extremely good at for decades is trapping people in their ecosystem happily. People will be there and quite happily because they've made it easy for everybody. So if then they also and we've got this streaming service that we'll throw in for free or very cheap for the first 6 to 12 months, that's how you get people.
Very true.
All right, there is lots more of this in the podcast of Download This Show. We're also talking about anti-surveillance clothing, which apparently is a thing. You can find it in the podcast. See you guys.